is the January
Yep.
2016 March Air Force Base Aero Club, or is it Air, it should be not Air Force Base, Air Reserve Base. Aero Club, and I'm Roger Mann, the safety officer, and for those of you who don't know me, well, come up and greet yourself. Chief Flight Instructor John Law, sitting right here. Oh yeah, I forgot about the Aero Club manager. He's sitting right here. Yeah, I forgot, what's your name? Oh yeah, Bob Pierce.
John Critch.
Oh, Critch, yeah, John Critch, okay. And we got over there the wing safety officer, and Bill Edelman, and him and I used to fly together in C-141. That was back in the days when we flew safe. Nowadays, you know, C-17's just a big automatic, huge machine now. But, and let's see, I don't know, Steve Fitch is here, so we do real good. Yeah, yeah, and George Watson too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a whole bunch of people. Yeah, yeah. And Murphy's here. He's the ATC person here on base. He doesn't have too much to say because he's about ready to retire, so he can hardly wait. And Jason, who's our cameraman, he is in the Air Force but works for the Army. Go figure that one out. So, okay, we have kind of a real quick little routine here. What we do is that we go in and we introduce new people. So if there's anybody here that's new that has not been, what's the word I'm looking for? Introduce themselves. Anybody that has not done this before. Okay, come on now. All right, we'll start with you. Introduce yourself and where you're from and all that.
I'm Dion. I'm in the Marine Corps. Got service hire. I'm a private pilot with 50 hours. Basically, my goal is to join, not to join a club, is to kind of get work, meet new members, and also hopefully build hours to hopefully have a career in the airlines when I retire. So happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, welcome.
Nate Livingston, I just retired from the Air Force, finished my Marine Aeronautics and rental, and just joined the Aero Club, trying to get my private pilot's license and aspire to be a UAV pilot. I was a C5, this was actually my first duty station. I was a crew chief on KC-10s and cross-trained engineer and flew C5s, KC-10s, and snuggled truck down at Air Force Base.
Now, you did catch that he was a engineer, flight engineer on Yes, us flight engineers need to stick together. All right. All right, next.
My name is Shingi. No experience in flying at all. I'm just fascinated. Joined the Aero Club on 22nd December last year, and I'm a member of CAP, Squadron 5. You're a good bunch.
All right, and
Carlos Garcia, I've been retired Air Force, Master Sergeant, IT guy by trade. I'm in the teaching field now. I'm an ROTC instructor at Yakaipa High School. Last year I was at Hemet High as a teacher there. The year before that I was at El Camino College teaching there. So a teacher, I got a Bachelor of Science in Information System Security, Master's in Education, and I just want to fly just for fun. So I got 0 hours. I got nothing. So,
a great jacket though.
Oh,
yeah.
But I'm just here because I've been around planes, but I guess I want to fly now. So,
Nice.
thank you.
Believe it or not, most of the pilots in here flew for pleasure too, and that includes the airline pilots and the Air Force pilots, and a lot of times you have to wake up, and really, wow, I'm being paid to do something like this, it really is, but whether you do it for a profession or you do it just for the fun, flying is I think it's one of the things that you can never match anywhere else. You know, you have boats and stuff like that, but flying an airplane, that's the best. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Welcome, you new people, and hopefully you guys can all, you know, come in here and stand up next time saying, I got my private pilot's license this week, or something to that effect. That'd be the next step, which is what we talk about here. New pilots, or new ratings, or this includes solo too. This means, you know, did you solo for the rating? Did you take your first cross country? Anything. Even if you got violated by the FAA and got your license all taken away. I want to hear about it. I'm sure everybody else does too, but gee, okay. Nobody, that includes Air Force, you know.
I just did my first cross country last weekend, this weekend, to Ramona. Pretty fun. Wasn't too hectic. That's kind of desolate. And this Sunday, me and Chris went to Camarillo, and Camarillo on a Sunday afternoon with perfect weather is really crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I had a tower yell at me for the first time. Yeah, they didn't like my butting into people's conversations.
Was it good for you? Was it good for you?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, exciting. So we'll be there next week. Another one.
Yeah, I didn't see you behind the post, and I was looking for you because I knew you had just done your cross country and stuff. Okay, anybody else? Okay, experiences. Now, this is anybody. It doesn't matter, even for airline pilots, although I don't see a lot of them. But anything that they that includes George. You know, George, you
Well, no, we had a couple of blown tires at Ramona.
okay.
On that. One, I think it was a Veronica Champ, yeah. Landed short, runway 18, fall over a couple of, well, maybe 10 feet lower, and he wouldn't be around to tell about it.
Wow.
Landed short there, hit that embankment. So, coming forward, keep speed up, not too fast. But you go off the other end.
Okay. Anybody else?
It's just could say about using your whole call sign. I was flying out to Big Bear, and there was myself and another plane with very similar call signs, and a little confusing because ATC is great, but they didn't realize that we were both very similar call signs, so they're giving us conflicting information. So it could have been an issue if I didn't, you know.
Yeah.
Address it, you know. So just make sure you use your whole call sign.
Yeah. Did everybody hear that? Yeah, they have a confusing call sign situation, which can happen very, very, very easy. You know, I've seen it happen in the Air Force, I've seen it happen in the civilian, I've seen it happen everywhere. And it sometimes could become a real bad situation too. Okay, anybody else? Okay, all right, we move on here. Okay, Aero Club manager will talk to us, I think. And then I'll run a little SOP thing. And we'll talk about tonight, do you know where you are in relation to yourself on an airport? Okay, Bob Pierce. Oh, gee, man.
Just want to straighten up everybody. Everybody know where the $5 coupons are in the drawers? Be sure to attach them to your invoice. Don't just put down their $5 deduction and then not put in an invoice, because we're not going to accept it anymore. You're going to get charged the $5 until you put the coupon in. So try and improve and help out Roger. I've gone through all the jackets. Your records for the inspection, we have no idea if the inspectors are coming or not. They were supposed to be here today.
As of last Tuesday, they had no funding yet, so who knows, they may show up, they may not, we don't know yet. But anyway, if you get a medical change, bring us a copy or bring it in and we'll make a copy here for your jacket. Same thing with any changes to your pilot's license or anything else that changes in your jacket. We need to have that information because we get written up from the inspectors when they're not up to date, especially for the students. And in regards to the students, there's a new FAA rule coming out effective 1 April of 2016. And that is all student pilots have to apply to the FAA first. They will then get a little green card like your pilot's license will be on. After you get that card, then you go to the FAA examiner, the AME, or AMI I guess it is anyway, and you can apply for your student pilot license with your medical. So those are the procedures starting on April the 1st. Those students who have the old medical certificate which says student pilot on it, they're going to be honored. It's only the new people signing up in regards to that. So if you know somebody that's interested in flying and want to get started, my viewpoint is make an appointment with an AME, go online, do your medical, get your thing before April the 1st, before it changes, because it's going to take you probably about 6 weeks or more knowing the FAA to get all your data in there.
Question on that, do we know if the FSDOs know that this program is being
It's
implemented?
been published.
But are they
I have no
aware
idea.
to-
I have no idea. It's not our job. Okay?
Understood.
I just worry about our point right here. T-34, I'm going to give you an update on it. 5.7, we're still waiting for the purchase order. We're in the 6th week now for the purchase order of the prop governor. And unfortunately, the individual I'm working with is in the Philippines, and he works on his computer there and then sends it back here, but it's slow going. So we're hoping within this week I'll get the purchase order. I've already called Quality Accessories in Tulsa, and they're ready to start the overhaul for the one they have on the shelf, and then it'll take them 4 to 5 days for that, and then we have another 3 to 4 days for shipment back here. So it's going to be 2 months on 5.7 before we can even get a test hop the way they operate on this place. 234 Whiskey Papa, attitude gyro, front gyro needs to be replaced. We're going to probably, when we find time, take the back out, switch it with the front, and make it work until we can get a purchase order to replace it, and that way you have a attitude gyro in the front seat. 555, we're still waiting for the memo that's been lost, and yet it's supposedly been signed by 3 people electronically. And once we get that memo, then we'll get the metal shop here in the base to come in, and they have to pull some skin on the bottom of 555 to get to the bracket that broke on the inner gear door when the wheel collapsed. So that's another slow process, and I've been on this thing now for a week and a half, but they can't find it. So if I don't hear anything tomorrow, I'm going to resubmit all my paperwork, and including all the instructions, and it can start from the Flight Services Commander, and then go to 452nd MSG, and then from there it goes across the street to MSX, the commander there, so he can approve the shop working on an airplane. 5.6, cylinders are in the shop on Oceanside. I got a phone call from there. He's looking at new cylinders at a cheaper cost than overhaul the ones we have. The 182, the DME's in the shop down in French Valley. I need to do an update on that since they were moving. When they dropped off the unit, they're going to move by the end of the week into a new shop. 03, I need a pilot on Friday for a ferry flight for 03 November to Cable, or I should say to Chino for PDOT static check. So nobody's going to help me out with 03, but if you want the free flight time, it's worth about an hour, let me know. We'll put you on that, and I call them and see if we can squeeze you in. 15 Foxtrot, I understand the nose shimmy dampener needs to be fixed, and on 2.9 we got to work on the secondary radio for 2.9. So 2.9 and the 182 are all been PDOT static checked and are all up to date. It's just 03 that needs some help. 234 is complete on that one there. For information, Malcolm is in the hospital. He had the hip surgery on Friday, so we'll probably see him again next month, and after some rehabilitation work, he may be up flying shortly.
And as mentioned earlier, Mr. Murphy is retiring here on the 31st, I beg your pardon, 19th of March. He's been an Aero Club member, although he's not presently, and he's given us a lot of support in regards to operations here on the base, and has been a key member to this Aero Club for many, many years. So we're going to miss you, Murph, but I understand that you're going to travel in a mobile home and fish and watch the country and make life much easier than what you're doing now. So, congratulations. That's all I got.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Just rehash a little bit, those of you that, most of you know, but if you, for you newer people, this is if you miss a safety meeting and you want to make it up, which is called brief, that's what the computer calls it, by viewing the YouTube video, okay? And if you do, and we do have it on YouTube, you can actually just Google a March Aero Club safety and it'll actually come up. When you do watch it on YouTube, though, you do have to take a little short 10-question quiz. The quiz is not difficult. If you did watch the YouTube, you will get everything well. Most of you will get everything right. Some of you have not, I don't know why. But anyhow, that's another story. If you attend the safety meeting or viewed it on a DVD, obviously, in the office where I've seen you come in and do it, then you don't have to take the little quiz. The Air Force just wants to make sure that you actually did watch it on the YouTube. That's why you gotta take the quiz. And this inspection right here is one of those inspections they would probably want to ask, how do you know the guy watched it? Any questions on this? Okay, we do a real quick overview of the SOPs. What we do is that we just kind of do paragraph by paragraph, and eventually we go through the entire SOPs and then start all over again. So that way you have no excuse to say you never read it. Of course, you signed a little agreement saying that you did, so either you're lying or you sat here in the safety meetings and watched. We do have a bird strike kit. We have several now in the office. It's over in the back corner where you faxed your flight plan. Right there is, there's like about, I think we got like about 5 of them, I think it was something like that. But, so the birds, anytime you hit a bird, it doesn't matter what the situation is, try to collect if you can, that part of the bird. Bill could actually tell you a little bit more about it since he's the guy that you throw the birds at him. He's the bird man. So actually, it goes on up to they actually do research on this stuff. They actually try to figure out what the bird is and all that stuff. And that all goes into a big database where they can now tell you exactly where birds are and what time of year and all that. I suspect that someday you'll be able to pull out an app on your phone and be able to just sit there and go, I'm at Podunk Airport, do they have bird problems? Oh yeah, here's, they have the whole thing right there, so.
Well, that's on the AHAS website. So it's a website created by the Air Force, but it's open to all civilians to use. And to get all the history, if you can pull up any airport on it, you can see the history of bird strikes there. It can give you the times that historically are the worst time for bird activities, and it will tell you the current bird activity based on next radar there for plus or minus a certain amount of hours out there. So if you be going somewhere where you normally have a lot of problems with birds, that's a great website to go look into it. Seagulls or whatever it is, just anywhere in the United States. As far as the bird strike kits, the guys don't have them on your airplanes, right? You keep them in your office?
In the office, yeah.
Okay, so if you guys get a bird, I know you guys don't deal with this very often, you don't get birds very often, you shoot birthdays, so you guys.
Only George.
But if you do have a bird strike, please, we want to capture that data, so it is important to us. So you just contact our office or call Roger or Bob, they know the process, and we'll talk to you if you're off base. If you're on base, one of us will go out there and help you gather the data, fill out the paperwork, kind of stuff like that. It's pretty simple. Just if you never do it, it's kind of complicated trying to figure out the first time how to do it.
Yeah. So, we had a guy hit a bird here about
2 months ago.
2 months ago, I guess it was, yeah.
3 months.
But up until then, George was the only one who hit a bird. And, but you know, that's because they saw George and just went right out. They like George, so. Okay, any other questions on this? Okay, now comes the big test. Okay, what I'm going to do, and I hope it works. Oops, I didn't mean to do it that way. I keep forgetting, I don't want to open it that way.
Roger. Jordan is an experienced pilot, and he has flown into and out of Long Beach Airport many times. His trip so far has been uneventful.
Vector 138, contact Long Beach Tower, R119.4.
Tower, Cessna 80138 is over the crane at 1,500 feet, landing Long Beach with uniform.
Cessna 80138, make left traffic, runway 25 left, report signal hill.
We'll report signal hill 138. 138 signal hill.
Cessna 138, number 2, follow Cessna ahead, runway 25 left, clear to land.
138, roger. Long Beach Airport is a particularly complex field, with intersecting parallel runways, a long diagonal for large aircraft, and an intricate system of taxiways. We chose it especially for this video because it has everything you're likely to encounter at a towered field. Watch closely what happens once Jordan is on the ground.
Cessna 138, cancel your landing clearance, extend downwind, change to runway 25 right, contact tower 120.5.
138, roger. Tower 138 downwind.
Cessna 80138, Long Beach Tower, turn base at the 605 for runway 25 right. Clear to land, hold short, runway 30 for departing traffic.
Hold short 30, 138.
Cessna 138, traffic 11 o'clock, 1/2 mile left to right, has in sight, helicopter.
138. Long Beach ground, Cessna 80138 off runway 25 right. Request taxi to Millionaire at Aeroplex.
Cessna 80138, roger. Turn right on Kilo, hold short, runway 30.
Hold short 30 on Kilo, Cessna 138.
Cessna 138, cross, runway 30, hold on the other side, then contact ground at 135.8.
Roger, cross runway 30 and hold, ground 135.8 on the other side, 138.
Cessna 738, Victor Charlie, Long Beach ground, hold short, runway 25 left at Bravo.
Hey, Victor Charlie, roger, hold short at 25 left.
Long Beach ground, Cessna 80138 on Kilo West of runway 30 for Aeroplex.
Cessna 80138, Long Beach ground, follow the Cessna ahead, hold short, runway 25 left at Bravo.
Hold short 25 left, 138.
Chicken 9260 Tango, turn base now, runway 25 left, clear to land.
Cessna 8 Victor Charlie, hold short, runway 25 left. Cessna 8 Victor Charlie, stop. Jim, I'm not stopping here.
Chicken 60 Tango, start climbing immediately, go around and get on the red truck across the runway.
What? Okay, we're not going to watch the rest of this video. We are going to watch a different one now. How many have been in the Long Beach? Yeah, I know a lot of you have. Interesting place, isn't it? Anybody got some stories they can tell about that place?
They don't have all the runways working nowadays.
They don't?
No, they got some shut down.
What about the taxiway?
Taxiways are still there.
What do they do? They charge $30 for, who said that?
Signature will tell you that they're the only place to park transient on Long Beach. They're lying, but they'll charge you $30 for that and give you a cookie.
Andrew's got experience.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
They give you milk with that, Andrew?
Okay, how many know what we're talking about tonight? Not that. Runway incursions, and there's been a lot of stuff. I'm sure that all of us who've been flying for any number of years could tell you some stories, especially at French Valley. And George could tell you some things too. George he's the airport manager for Fallbrook, yeah. And there's been a lot of, it seems like it's gotten a lot worse than it used to be when I first started flying way back in the old days. It didn't seem to be so bad, but now it's like people just do their own thing now. It can be both in the air or on the ground. Mainly tonight we're talking about on the ground. The idea of this whole thing is to make you aware of all this, is to make you be cognizant of what's going on. For you guys who are new students, it's not to scare you or anything like that. You're learning how to do this stuff with John or whoever your instructor is or is going to be. And you learn this stuff. The big thing is that he will give you some pointers in this video that you should be learning from John and from your instructors. And you can, as long as you're situationally aware, that's the big thing. I cannot overemphasize that. In the Air Force, Bill and I flew together a lot, and the key word was always situational awareness. Always. It's be situational aware, know exactly what is going on around you all times. Because you can't always, if you're on a towered airport, including this airport right here, don't trust the tower. Okay? You listen to what they say and you abide to what they tell you, but always be aware of what's around you. Okay, enough said.
Incursions. Now, first off, what is a runway incursion? By definition, it's any occurrence at an airport involving the incorrect presence of an aircraft, vehicle, or person on the runway. A lot of times we think of runway incursions, an airplane, cuts me off. He taxis right across the runway while I'm trying to land or take off. Yeah, that's a runway incursion. But a runway incursion can just as easily be caused by a person. There's construction happening at the airport and someone doesn't know where they should be, a vehicle down there. There's plenty of things that can cause a runway incursion other than an aircraft. Anytime something crosses that runway that's not supposed to be there when you're taking off or landing, that is your runway incursion. And this is where it gets really interesting. Check out the stats. In 2012, there were 1,150 runway incursions. 2013, 1,241 runway incursions. That 2014 number has, unfortunately, gone up as well. Guys, think about that. That's 3.4 reported incursions per day. How many runway incursions do you believe go unreported? I mean, really, realistically, that's more like 6 to 7 probably runway incursions per day because so many go unreported. How many times have you been flying into an uncontrolled or pilot-controlled airport and you're coming to land and you're on short final and somebody jumps out in front of you and tries to take off or just cuts across the runway, causes you to go around or alter your course somehow? If it hasn't happened to you, it's going to happen to you, especially at an uncontrolled airport like that. That's a runway incursion. Now, you may go and tell the airport manager or yell at the guy on the radio, but that's not going to actually officially get reported. Most of these reports are coming from what we see, sort of see every day in our commercial travel. That's what that's coming from our big-time towered airports. That's where these reports are mostly coming from. Imagine what happens, beyond that. So that's just 3.4 reported incursions per day, which is just unreal. So let's talk about some runway incursion hotspots. I'm going to share with you a really neat clip. Hopefully this is something new to you. And maybe you've seen this before on a taxiway diagram. They literally show you the hotspots. Here we are looking at St. Paul downtown Holman Field in St. Paul, Minnesota. And showing us right here. HS2, hotspot number 2. And it circles it right here. Obviously, guys, if it made it on the published taxiway diagram, it's been an issue for them in the past, and they want you to be aware of that. I imagine, look how taxiway Foxtrot kind of comes right on into runway 13, as well as 14, just on the takeoff procedure here. You can kind of see getting a little bit closer. I can see that being a big area for a hotspot. Same thing over here. Look at this taxiway Delta in between 2 runways. You might think you cross one runway, you're good. You don't realize another runway's coming up and you cross over it. This is another hotspot. So it's important to notice the hotspots and say, okay, I'm about to taxi through one of those hotspots. It's a hotspot for a reason. I need to pay attention to exactly what is going on here. It could be something like, again, taxiway Echo here. You're crossing 2 runways. Delta, the same thing. You're crossing over 2 runways and maybe you don't realize it. Look for these hot spots. And again, if they get published on the taxiway diagram, you got to realize they're there for a very good reason. So recognizing those hot spots early on is going to be very, very important for you as we look towards how can we further prevent runway incursions. It comes down to us, first off. Now, we've got to realize, though, it's just like when we were learning to drive. Our parents were probably never too worried about us driving. They were worried about the other drivers out there. The same is true in aviation. We can do all we want to be the safest, best pilot, but unless that other person flying that other airplane in that same airspace as you has that same mentality of wanting to grow and become a safer, smarter pilot, it doesn't help you too much. You've got double duty to do. So what we can do personally, though, first is write down and read back. Guys, anytime you're flying out of a towered airport, I hope you've got your kneeboard on your lap, pen and paper in hand. It may be a very simple taxi, but it doesn't matter. Write down and read back. Write down what they told you, proper directions, and read it back. And the thing is, if you're confused, you don't understand what they're asking, don't ever hesitate to ask. We as pilots sometimes have this psychological issue where, geez, we don't like to ask for help a whole lot. We'd rather kind of get out there and try, we'll figure it out as we go, we'll say a lot of times. Don't ever hesitate to ask for clarification. What I do is I got my taxiway diagram out, I got my pen and paper out, and when I call up ground for my, my taxi clearance, I write down, I read back, and then I sit for a second. And when I say a second, I'm sitting for maybe 10, 15 seconds, and I look at my taxiway diagram, and I literally draw how I'm going to do it. They say, okay, hop onto Bravo. I look out my windshield and look and look and look. Oh, there's Bravo. Great. And I hop on Bravo. And I follow with my finger on my taxiway diagram as I do it. Don't ever hesitate to ask. I've gotten to that point where I look down my taxiway diagram and go, he wants me to do what? Is he sure they want me to do that? And clarify with them. Are you sure that's what you want for Cessna 1, 2, 3, 4? Just want to double check kind of thing. Don't ever hesitate to ask. And probably the most important one, the final one here, is don't be afraid to speak up. Because controllers are only humans as well, we have to realize. And sometimes they give some, maybe it's been a long day and they give a clearance and you wonder, like, are you sure that's what you wanted for Cessna 1, 2, 3, 4? And you're thinking, maybe I just better clarify. Maybe I just better speak up. And I want to play you a clip right now of a little animation that shows the power of all three of these things, writing down and reading back, not hesitating to ask, and finally the clip ends with somebody finally speaking up and saying, no, I'm not going to take off because that other pilot has no clue where he or she is right now, and they could be on the runway, and I can't see. It was an IFR day at the time. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll play that clip for you now. It's really going to be an eye-opener for you that professional controllers and professional pilots all make mistakes.
Yeah, 1448, what's your position? And we're clear of the runway on November 5,000 and 1448. And 1448, make two taxis to bank, you take base November and Tango, report crossing runway 16. Okay, November, Tango, report crossing runway 16 and 1448.
I believe it's a foggy day when this happens.
At this point, United 1448 makes an incorrect left turn on the Bravo taxiway, taking them back to the active runway 5 right.
1662, runway 5 right, fly runway heading cleared for takeoff. Runway heading cleared for takeoff, 5 right, 1662.
Now, 1448 is on November by the runway here. We don't see the return cross there on November.
That's 1448 from runway 16, wind taxi November Tango on the other side.
At this point, United 1448 and the tower both think that United 1448 is holding short of runway 16 on November.
Tango on the other side, United 1448. And United 1448, we're approaching Kilo here. Somebody just took off.
United 1448, you shouldn't be anywhere near Kilo. Hold your position, please, this stop. This is United 1448. We are currently on the runway. I'm looking out to the right with a Kilo. We need to go on to the Kilo. That's 1448, you're supposed to taxi November Tango. I need to know what runway you're on. I can't see anything from the tower.
Ma'am, we are on 23 right intersection of 16, and we did not connect on November. We are by Kilo to our right, and we just overshot Kilo. We did not see it. Runway on 23 left here.
United, stand by, please. Get your 2998, runway 5 right, fly runway heading clear for takeoff.
Ma'am, I'm trying to find you on an active runway, United 1448.
2T right, non-active runway, it's a taxiway 1 IFR in the dark. Get your 2998, runway 5 right, fly runway heading clear for takeoff.
The controller has now cleared another plane for takeoff, still thinking United 1448 is at 16 and 23 right.
Yeah, sorry, we're 2998, so we figure out what's going on down there. We're just going to stay clear of one runway.
Runway 5 right, you're in the runway, you can hold short.
Okay.
So let's recap now. Who was the hero in this situation? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. It's the U.S. air captain that said, listen, until we figure out what's going on down there, we're not going anywhere. I love the controller's remark at the end. All right, yeah, you can wait there. He's not anywhere near the runway, but you can hold short, no big deal. And boy, you know, was she ever wrong in that case? Who was at fault? Well, the controller was at fault. You know, she kind of had a bit of an attitude on top of, you know, thinking she knew where this plane was, and then both pilots in United 1448 certainly had an issue. They had an issue with their crew resource management. You heard them stepping on each other and bickering back and forth. I can imagine if we had the full black box recording, it'd be more than what we just heard when they keyed up the mic. So you heard them kind of fighting back and forth with everything. There was tension in that cockpit. On top of a controller who was believing them but was positive they were somewhere else. And what it took was somebody to stand up and say, listen, until you figure out what's going on down there, I'm not going anywhere. And guys, sometimes that's what it takes. For you to stand up, for you to hold short, whatever it is, and say, listen, Until we figure the situation out, I am fine just where I am. You guys go figure it out down there and let me know when you're ready for me. And we've got a definite conclusion to that. So that's that, guys. You've got to stand up and make those sort of calls sometimes, like that U.S. Air captain did. So hopefully you enjoyed that clip, and I'll see you guys over in the next lesson.
How many things do people see in this as far as safety issues? You talked about CRM, crew resource management, or operational risk management and that type of thing. Don't let it kid you. Just because you're a single pilot in a Cessna 172, that resource management or risk management doesn't take place. It does. These runway incursions that take place oftentimes take place in airports where you've got a lot of busy things going on. French Valley is, I like to pick on French Valley. That place there is a nightmare.
Oh, but only on the weekend.
Oh, okay, just only the weekends, okay. I tell you, I could tell some stories about that place. But risk management is also one of these things you can bring up in this meeting, is the fact that, what kind of day is it? John just said weekends. Well, okay, does the risk go way up as far as this kind of thing taking place at the French Valley or any other non-controlled airport? Yes, it does. So now you're sitting there going, what level am I at as far as experience? Am I down here where I've just only got about maybe 50, 60 hours and I just became a new pilot? Or do I have 5,000 hours of flying time? The 5,000 hours of flying time doesn't necessarily mean that you're that you're going to get yourself out of a situation any easier. It might go against you, especially if you become complacent. So those are the things that you got to be thinking about. Runway incursions with the towered airport, as you can see, can very easily happen there. Even worse in some cases, because if you have the tendency of falling for what the tower tells you, but not paying attention to what they're doing, you might get yourself in trouble. Doc.
Does anybody doubt the sincerity of that guy doing the tape? I don't. But and I feel like Martin Luther tacking stuff up on a church in 1500 here. I want to go back about 9 steps here. Did an accident occur?
No.
No. When this came out, some bureaucrat at the FAA decided that this was something that was important. So the critical question, I'm going to put on a different hat right now. I'm not going to put on my pilot hat. I'm going to put on a scientist hat, and I'm going to say, the FAA has spent millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to make us aware of how important runway incursions are. And yeah, they are important, but the question you have to ask as a scientist is, how many accidents have they caused? Now, when this first came out, it was about 10 years ago. I don't remember who the head of the FAA was. I remember he took over from the person who tried to impose MALSR on. Does everybody remember that? The way they were going to teach us to land at medium-sized airports. They spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on that too, which came to nothing. So, yeah, runway incursions are important, but pilots make mistakes, and as you saw on this clip, solved the problem. So here's a question to ask yourself. Of the many millions of dollars that the FAA has spent making us aware of runway incursions, if you do the math, they could have paid for about 5 hours of instruction for every student pilot in America. This is a finite pie that the FAA has. Now, I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying, is this the thing, runway incursions, is this the problem that's causing pilots to die? And I would suggest to you that it's not. What causes pilots to die is poor aviation decision-making. And I'd like to recommend to you that, yeah, think about runway incursions. However, if you're going to spend time and energy and money, let's spend the money on teaching people to make better decisions in aviation. I'm off my soapbox now. Anybody else can?
All right, let me jump into that. All right. I completely disagree. Okay, the FAA has spent a lot of time on this because there's been several notable incidents. In Tenerife, there you go. Perfect example there. One of the deadliest accidents ever in the history of aviation. There's been a lot of close calls. There's been other significant incidents. People have died. The runway incursion has the possibility of creating great loss of life. It's very, very dangerous out there. I think a lot of people flying over many years have had close calls. Some of the areas we fly into, sometimes we get, when we drive airplanes, it's not like driving a car. We can't just go up to an intersection, look at the sign up there and say, hey, I'm going to come up here, oh, it's not the right street, or I'm going to stop here, I'm going to make a U-turn, whatever it is. In an airplane, a lot of times you're kind of committed because you can't turn around. You know, maybe the advantages of 150 flying to Long Beach, I could do a U-turn in a taxiway, but in bigger airplanes you can't. And that's what the FAA is really concerned, the big airplanes. But even putting a little airplane in a place where a big airplane's going to be out there, that can cause a fatal accident. If you watch the show Air Emergency, you got several incidents around the world that's caused big accidents. Los Angeles had the one the controller forgot about one airplane on the runway, another airplane landed on top of it, killed a bunch of people out there. From personal experiences, I've seen it before. We fly all the time into Honolulu Hickam Air Force Base out there, and the configuration of the runways is kind of like Long Beach. It's very confusing. They're intersecting runways. For the civilians, it's a land and whole shore operations. We specifically in the Air Force are prohibited from taking that clearance because it's so dangerous. The clearance, how familiar you are with the runways out there. When you're taxiing on a lot of those airfields, it's bad enough in daytime. When you're not familiar what taxi rules, you make a left and make a right turn, is this a runway or not? You count a lot of the little signs off to the side. You go in there at nighttime, reduced visibility out there. There's little blue lights, white lights. They really can be really confusing when they have special intersecting runways. When he had the little diagram out there at the beginning with little hot spots you see out there, I don't know how many of you guys noticed, most of them were not at a 90-degree junction. We think, like when we're driving a car, if I come up this tack on this runway and I hang a left, I'm off the runway. And I go out here, when I go to the next parallel taxiway, I'm going to hang another right or left. And a lot of these places are kind of dangerous. They're angling taxiways, angling runways, angling taxiways out there. And in your mind, when you make that, call it a 70-degree turn, it felt like a 90-degree turn. And then you come up and make another 30-degree turn, and all of a sudden your internal gyros, when you have poor visibility, you think you're going north when you're actually going west. And what the Air Force has looked at this thing here so much, it says they make us, we are required to brief at a time. I think the system the FAA and NTSB has pushed for civilian a lot longer than it has for the Air Force. We are required to brief before you start taxiing out what's your expected taxi route. And on landing, we talk about what our expected taxi route is. What this would apply for you guys flying the little airplanes. When you fly into an airfield you're not completely familiar with, pull out that airfield diagram, think about it before you land there. This is where I'm going to go, this is what the dangerous areas are, and visualize that and have that thing ready so when you land, the guy starts giving you directions. And now your pilot judgment comes in on this thing here. If you get turned around, speak up, stop, and say, hey, I'm not really sure where I'm at. Don't don't worry about embarrassment, whatever it is. Control is much better for that. I've spent plenty of time up there in the tower working as a SOF, whatever it is. Just fess up. Hey, I'm not exactly sure. I think I'm here, whatever it is. And then the guy says, okay, hold your position. Just go up 2 taxiways until you make a right turn. Just do that. You know, I investigate. Personally, I investigate any of the violations, runway incursions, any hazard air traffic reports on this airfield. And we have it once in a while. It happens. The last one investigated, as a matter of fact, was an Aero Club airplane that was inbound, and it was an SP who crossed the runway without clearance. And what happens in those cases, it's not somebody just making a dumb mistake. It's well, it is a dumb mistake. What it is, he does this all the time. There's a specific routine you call on the radio for clearance across the runway. It's a different net that you guys are on, different radio than you guys are on, and I monitor that all the time. And 99% of the time, tower tells him to do this. When that one time he's told he's hold his position because he got an airplane final, he's already ready for the tower to say, yeah, go ahead and cross the runway. And he goes, Roger, crossing the runway. And next thing you know, he's halfway into the runway, and the tower says, whoa, whoa, no, I didn't tell you to do that. And the guy stops, and he's already back up, and the airplane's right, no, go ahead and just continue, get off the runway. So it could happen at any time. Airplanes, too much time on the runway, airplanes crossing intersections. So please take all this stuff real seriously. And if you have any questions about any of stuff like this, I have plenty of other stuff that I can share in videos and stuff like that.
So, may I respond?
Let's keep it short because this thing is going to go on all night.
60 seconds. Your comments are absolutely spot on and great and educational. But they did not address my point. My point was not so much that this is not important, it is important, but that we have a concrete pie of a certain size, and if we're going to spend a lot of time and energy, I would like to spend more of it on aviation decision making. Your comments are great. Is that short enough?
Sure enough. We can continue this discussion afterwards.
You know, what's going on is very good. But we have three types of communication. We got general aviation, we got large civilian, and we got military. Now, the colonel says, yeah, we brief what taxiways we're going to use. We're going to brief what taxiways we're going to use after landing. That's out the window when it comes to civilian aviation. If you're in Chicago, they're going to say, okay, taxiway Alpha through the penalty box, out through Hangar Alley to runway 22 left. Huh? Has anybody heard anything like that? No. What advantage do we have today is through the iPad or some other GPS system, and that's going to prevent what we have. Because it's going to show your position and the taxiway and a visual of what you're going to do. If you're trying to read a map and you're trying to drive the airplane and they want you to move in a hurry, you're going to have to pull over and stop somewhere, or you have to tell them that, hey, I've got to stop here, I'll let you know when I'm ready to taxi. And what the doc says is true, and what Bill says is true. But I'm just saying that there's other aspects in regards to runway incursion. We haven't had an accident. The Tenerife was in the 80s. The one at LAX, I was working for American Airlines, that's over 30 years ago. We haven't had a bad accident since. So I disagree with Bill about accidents. We have close calls, but we haven't had accidents. And the key is listening and writing something down or challenging the person that's giving you the direction.
Hey Roger, can I add one thing? Just personal experience. You guys are all a lot smarter than I am, but we use our phones for ForeFlight and a lot of different things. Well, again, I'm a stupid guy, got kids, and I get text messages, and it's very easy to get distracted with this while you're doing something. So it's best to turn the damn phone off. I've learned from personal experience, airplane mode. Then I can still do my ForeFlight, and I don't get text messages or emails or phone calls.
The one thing I never heard though, for a big solution, a lot of us don't like to do it, but it's progressive text instructions. I mean, a lot of us don't want to take up the controller's times, you know, but you ask for progressive, they have to take the time and they have to give you those instructions. They have to monitor you all the time. It's very simple. But
I just want to say progressive taxi. I mean,
No, okay.
Tell me how to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I had the choice of making about 20 bridges about, when I was going through all this, I saw many videos. And I absolutely agree with the doc about decision making. But the problem is do people do that? I mean, a lot of people leave it to ATC, to the tower, make the decision. Yeah.
Okay, guys, some of you are saying things, and you got a lot of new people in here. Things progressive taxi, which is a great idea. Things like senior student pilot, which is a great idea. We need to actually stop and explain the value of this to the students in here, because they really don't know, except for the fact that one of you senior pilots said it. The value of what it is and what it means to them, we need to actually stop and say that, okay? Because they don't know. They're sitting here thinking, okay, this guy said I should do that. This guy said I should do that. They're senior, they got a lot of hours, but what does that mean to me as a student? Y'all need to like actually break that down for these folks.
Well, yeah, but also though too, Gene, is that is what the job is of the instructor for the students, the ones that are not licensed pilots right now. Hopefully they're not out there trying to do anything on their own without having the instructor explaining this stuff to them. But I know what you're saying, Gene. Okay. Anybody else? I know there's a lot that could be said, but I think we need to just to get to the end of the meeting, because it's now 8 o'clock. 2 minutes still. We actually, I'm going to do it. Well, yeah. Okay. Any questions?
Hey now.
Huh? Yeah. This is what John really is thinking of when he goes up with his students. Okay, there is an ALPA safety seminar called Emergencies, getting it right when things go wrong, talking about decision making. This does look like it might hit right on that subject. It's at the Doubletree Hotel in Ontario. It's Tuesday, January 26th, 7 to 9 p.m. Actually, that's next week, yeah. So that does count for the Wings program. And so...
We got one in February.
And, yeah, we got one, well, yeah, we got one in February too, but I'm not sure.
What's the date, Bill, on yours?
Mine's the 6th of February, but it's full already.
Yeah,
I got 200 people signed up.
That's
200? Gee.
We're getting a lot of calls on procedures and stuff. I'm not sure.
To register?
Well, it's not to register, no, to fly in.